another debut work promoted by Frontiers Music. The publishing pace of the label is enviable, as well as the quality with which they bring us into the rock and hard rock scene. Stormwarning are described as melodic rock, but there is a lot of hard rock and sometimes even a hint of heavy metal, as the opening track Eye of the Storm shows us. Of course, the typical hard rock tone of the 80s is the one we see the most, but still, despite the commonplaces, the result is an album we find ourselves listening to again and again. Formed around the remarkable voice of Argentinian vocalist Santiago Ramonda, and with Marcelo Jelk and Felipe Sousa in charge of the music, this is an interesting and timeless hard rock album.
This was a huge surprise. A very positive one. Günter Werno is the keyboard player of the Vanden Plas, who give a little leg up here, and his solo project was born after the band played Jon Lord's mythical concerto for group and orchestra. Having succeeded, Günter was challenged to repeat the feat, but instead of playing someone else's music, he would compose his own music in 3 movements, which were then performed live last year. Not what one would expect from Vanden Plas fans. For those who like classical/symphonic music and appreciate the aforementioned Jon Lord compositions, this is a very special work that has a greater impact than expected. The first movement, Animabilis, is something fantastic.
The masters of gothic rock/metal are back. The Finns have been an undeniable reference in the genre for quite some time, and each album is awaited with great expectations. Death of Darkness is no exception. And if we can see that the band is a little less explosive than in the past, it is also undeniable that it still has a huge quality with a set of themes that do not take long to be recorded. Noteworthy are the groove of Gotta Rock, with that Billie Jean-esque bass line, the murder ballad/Americana atmosphere of This Murder Makes Two, featuring Cat Band D, the infectious melody of Something Real, or the whip of The Cult in Sundown. An album by one of the biggest references in gothic rock today.
Honked are one of those names in the new blood of traditional metal that doesn't disappoint and is constantly surprising. Just look at their discography. Huge, having their first album in 2017, and in 2023, this is already their 9th. One characteristic of his albums is that they are usually short, and this Golden Arm doesn't worry too much about being less than half an hour long. Nor do they have any reason to worry. They feature 8 songs, which are no more than 3 minutes long, but bring that heavy metal enthusiasm that we love so much. An album that you listen to so fast, but even faster you spin around again to hear it. That alone says it all.
Certain things are unnecessary, but these same things are often definitions of themselves. Just like the tradition of Axel Rudi Pell releasing compilations of ballads where he takes the quieter songs from his recent albums as well as adds something new and some versions. The formula itself is what it is, but the issue is that on this particular release it can't even reach the previous levels of quality. Besides being too extensive for its own good, where even the versions of classics like Dust in the Wind and of Diamonds and Rust end up sounding too boring. Despite the quality of Johnny Joelli's voice on I Put a Spell on You, that feeling is even more glaring. Lacking here are the streaks of genius that we know Rudi Pell has, both in the solos and in the arrangements that end up making these soft propositions and without the expected energy or excitement.
There are stories that captivate us, like that of the Americans 3 Bravo, who arrived at their debut album after playing together for about 20 years, with the particularity of being a power trio made up of a father and his 2 sons. Love for Hard and Heavy is just that, a passion that is transmitted and lived from fathers to sons. Upheaval manages to surprise also musically with a classic heavy metal that goes beyond trying to be nostalgic. It simply sounds classic, without pretension, and uses some of its limitations in terms of sound to present an album that always sounds good to the ears of those who breathe and live heavy metal. And that is enough.
The first instinct would be to put this debut album by the German Wasteland clan on the gothic metal shelf, however. And despite having some points in common, the sound ends up being a mixture of the genre with something more traditional. The keyboards do not play such a dominant role, and it is the guitars that take the lead. The guitars and, of course, the excellent voice of Lilith Fox, which is interspersed with some gutturals that appear occasionally, and which I am not quite sure if it is one of the other musicians who is responsible for them. In any case, musically, it is an album that is easy to dive into and will please fans of the mix of heaviness and melody.
We were already wondering when the next Ruadh album would be released. A British project that not only has publishing regularity, but the quality is always guaranteed. This fourth album is no exception, bringing 6 more themes of epic black metal where the melodies and folk ambience are still on equal footing. The imagery and mystique is still very present here, as well as the ability to make epic, long-lasting songs without them becoming boring. On the contrary, this is a trip that we will take several times, a trip of impressive beauty.